Okay, you're good.
I'm Michaela.
I'm Hannah.
Danielle. Mariah.
Oh, I'm Olivia. Hold on. Sorry.
I'm Olivia. Okay, so community assets update. We're going to Alderwood next week. What time?
The club is 3 to 4:30. So we're curious if you wanted us to email. Hannah and I worked with Kelly Vogel last quarter in our service learning, or if you wanted to do that yourself to make sure it was okay for us to go and check out the Club de Lectura. So that's kind of where we're at right now, just figuring out when we get to go and do that so that we can kind of get a head start on those programs.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Awesome. Okay, so shall we start?
Sure.
Do we want to do an overview and then get into the jigsaw?
Yeah, we could just briefly talk about what we all said for which part.
We could go section by section if we want, like
Yeah.
all around.
In the jigsaw?
Like we did last
Sure.
time, how we just went kind of
Like,
Okay.
Yeah. Well, the first part is about what we all responded
Yeah,
to.
so
So like we can just talk
We can
about
talk
that
about
real
some
quick.
like commonalities and maybe questions we had, or and then we'll move into the jigsaw, starting with A.
people can jump in.
That's
Yeah.
at the time. So like
Oh, I'll do it.
write down for question time.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, who wants to start?
So that's about academic engagement and achievement of Latino youth.
I kind of just said that, we have access to this research and data, and we're able to see that the population is increasing and that they're still failing academically, that the research should be used, and as a teacher, we can focus in on whether it's math or reading or whatever it may be and focus on that, and there's no reason why we can't be using this data to help the increasing Latino population.
Well, and it's not okay that there is their population keeps coming up, and then so does the dropout rates and the rates of failure and all the standardized tests. So that's not. That just shows a failure in the school system, that we're not going out of our way to help these kids.
And I think we talked about this in 310 as well, and when we watched we looked at the national report card.
Yeah.
And even Latino and stuff, the population, but also I don't know if it mentioned the indigenous population as well, because it's the same thing.
It's increased.
It's increasing dropout rates, and we're not addressing it, but we have the data.
Yeah.
So I think just really making sure that we.
Yeah, and I don't know whether that's we don't know how to address it, or we just don't really care to spend the time addressing it right now, or I don't know, but it's unacceptable.
Yeah.
What I'm, I guess, kind of confused or uncertain about is all the huge migration of the Latino population is to come to America to find more prosperity and opportunity. But it's is it not getting back to them that we're not making that happen for their kids that are going through school? I don't get why they're still so drawn to come here, besides the fact that maybe there's more freedom here, but it's they aren't being given the opportunity. Maybe they are receiving more work and money compared to where they would at home, but for their students.
I think it is. I think that they still.
Is it just so bad there that even though we're not doing all that we can do, so we're comparing it to our set of standards in our head compared to theirs?
Yeah, money question.
So I'm curious about that too.
Because a lot of the times if they are migrating from somewhere and they're coming from a place that's in complete turmoil, anything is better than we're not in a state of war on our land, and the job opportunities.
Yeah.
So I don't know, is that the reason why? Are they not realizing that the standards for education is not equitable? I don't know. Do they not?
Yeah, I guess.
When they come here, do they not realize that, or are they?
Yeah, I know. I'm wondering,
Or
when
they
they
just
come, do they
willing?
think that this is really great for them, or are they seeing it from our standpoint where we're they're not
Or
receiving
are
the
they
help
just
that they
seeing
should
it better
be
than where they were before?
Yeah.
We still see them in poverty here, but who knows how bad it was where
It
they
could
came
be, right.
before us,
Yeah.
so it could be better.
Well, it could also be they're just so focused on finding an income for the family, and if there's no income where they are, then they're coming here and they're just kind of like the education will work itself out, which is, you know, a sad perspective.
Right.
But I wonder if that's a perspective that they have, where it's like,
Mhm.
oh, like in America, my child will get an education. They're not thinking about the quality of it, but they know that their child
Mhm.
will get one.
Well,
Okay.
and also the quality of education or the value on education is different in countries.
True.
Some don't even have formal education after a certain age, or
Yeah.
a lot of them leave school to go to work, and they're doing that now,
Mhm.
and that's contributing to, I think, what it was saying, like the dropout rates
Mhm.
and families that have low incomes, they have to help their parents. So how are we addressing that?
I think that they do place a lot of like significance on education though, because I read a lot of stuff talking about like the Latino families and how like
Yeah.
they have high importance on education, but they like approach it differently than like we do. Because
Right.
like the parents often like aren't involved in school out of like a respect thing versus like
Right, because they
not
don't want to
wanting to
act
be-
like they're
Yeah.
like
Well,
wanting
and
up
they're
with
really,
the
like,
teacher. Yeah.
They're really, really, really conscious about how their students are, like, or how their kids are.
like
They're,
politeness over
Like they want to
behavior.
make sure that is my student respectful? Is my kid being like, are they being a good person?
Yeah.
Da, da, da.
More of the
Um,
morals than the actual academic
That's what
side.
my cooperating teacher said last quarter.
Yeah.
So that's like the
Yeah.
seems to be the
like manners
highest.
versus like
Mhm.
academics.
Yeah.
Interesting.
And we talked about a lot of people confuse parents not wanting to be involved with not being able to be involved if they have a lack of English or
Well, a lot of these parents
Or
are
time.
working two jobs.
Yeah.
Don't. That's why like at Alderwood they have all the free programming after school because so many of those kids' parents are working
Mhm.
and they're not home, and it's not. I mean, it's not good to have a first grader go home to no one
Mhm.
because it's just not
No.
safe. And
No,
so.
yeah.
And so like a community like Alderwood is addressing some of those issues.
At least at the elementary level. I don't know what they've done in the middle school and high school levels, and we can get into that and find out. But I know for sure, I think they had just implemented it this year, was the first year that they were able to do the free after-school programming.
Yeah.
And they'll like bus students home, or they can get picked up, and it's been, I mean, the kids seem to love it. It doesn't seem like none of them are.
Dreading being there
Yeah,
or
exactly.
anything. Yeah.
Yeah.
Especially if a lot of the kids are in the same situation, then it's more of like a home feeling versus like.
And it did,
Right.
like, it did seem to be a high population of Latino students that were there, because a lot of the students that I worked with, they were speaking Spanish, but they didn't know, they weren't quite literate in it, so like, that's why they have the clue, because they're trying to help those students become literate. Like, one of the little girls that I would help, and I put this in my post a little bit, I think,
Right. Yep.
that, I would help in homework club, would always have her homework translated in both Spanish and English. But like she didn't know how to read the Spanish, but her parents could, and so her teacher did this so that she could go home and do homework with her parents.
That's really cool.
Yeah,
That's so significant because a lot of times they want to help their kids, but they don't know how
but
to.
they
'cause
can't, or they
yeah.
can't read it. Yeah,
Articulate
Right.
English.
Yeah, it's not that they're not academically like able to, it's
Yeah.
just that they can't understand the writings. Because if I was at like a Russian, if I moved to Russia and my kid came home with Russian homework,
I'd be
like,
lost.
what would
Yeah,
I do with that?
Yeah.
Like,
yeah. Yeah, so I know they're doing a lot to help and to address the situations. I just hope it's being continued throughout middle school and high school levels, so we'll have to look into that as well. I don't even know which middle school, and
I know, I was
Which
thinking
middle
about that, I'm
schools
like,
over
where
there?
do they go?
I'm not sure, I
Is
don't
it
know which one's connected.
It's part of Bellingham School District,
Yeah,
so
it is.
it would, depending on where they're at, they
Ultimately,
would
it
go
would feed into
whatever middle schools in
Probably.
Bellingham.
Bellingham High. Maybe? I don't
I
know.
know
Yeah,
like
there's
Shuxon Middle
Bellingham.
School too.
Yeah, there's Shuxon.
And
then
doesn't
there's
Shuxon
also-
have a bunch
Shuxon has an awesome after-school program, because I volunteered with, well, I did my service learning there, and they were given like a grant of like $1 million or something crazy to
Wow.
like start this program. I
That's
don't
so cool.
remember what the program's called, but they're starting it in like multiple other schools, and it's really successful because there's different programs. There's the homework program, so, and the kids every day get to decide which one they want to go to, whether they want to go get help with homework or like do stuff on the computers. There's also a music program that they can go into, and they actually are like creating music like online, and like it's amazing. Like these kids are like creating songs and beats and everything. It's super, oh, that's what it's called, the Beats program. And then there's a program for sports, so if you wanna go outside and play sports, so they go to like fields that are across the street, to play games, and then there's, actually there's like a nutrition club, so like kids get to learn about different foods and plants and like,
So there's
like
a
all
cooking
our
club
way,
at
yeah,
Elder.
there's-
So I wonder
there's
if those two are the
football.
connected ones.
yeah, and
But
it's
we'll
really
just have to look
awesome.
into that and see which,
Where they get to
Where the
go
ties
after
are,
they
yeah.
transfer over to.
Yeah, and then they also
Alder.
provide dinner for all the kids too.
Wow.
for
Alderwood
free.
does snacks.
Yeah,
That's
that's
huge.
true.
They said it was like a state mandate, that if
Right.
you keep kids after school, you have to give them a snack
Yeah,
Mhm.
or something.
yeah,
Wow.
definitely.
That's really cool.
I think that's cool because it's providing them with opportunities that they like wouldn't have had on their
Yeah.
own, and like
Exactly.
then they can discover if they like
And if it's
something.
free, they don't have to
Yeah.
worry about that.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, the financial
Yeah.
stresses of it.
And they get like, after they've come, I think 10 or 12 times, they get like a t-shirt and they become like initiated in the club.
Aw.
And so it like gets kids, and then after they come to like after they come 30 times, they come like VIP members, you know, so like they're encouraging kids to come after school and not just go home and sit by themselves, because there's so many different activities that they can do.
That's cool.
But I remember one kid coming for his first time, and he had just moved to the middle school and he didn't speak English.
Oh
And he
my.
was like so overwhelmed. Luckily, there was one volunteer, similar to like Olivia, who could speak Spanish, and she like just hung out with him all day.
Oh.
And you could tell that he was just so relieved that like someone
Aw,
could speak Spanish
that's
and could
so
talk to
sweet.
somebody. But I was just thinking like I was just thinking about his journey like for the next couple of years of like being able to adapt and like learn the language and find friends, because I'm sure
In middle school, it's a hard year to just be dropped in.
Totally.
yeah, like 6th grade, like I can't imagine.
No,
But
totally.
yeah, and also like I don't know how willing like children are to like, because I didn't have experience of that when I was a child, like having a friend that didn't speak English. Like,
No.
are they patient at all with the child? Like, do they want to talk to
Yeah.
them? Like, I feel like they probably ignore them,
I
not
think it
because.
just depends on the kid
Yeah.
and the experiences and the way that kid has been
Yeah.
raised.
That's true.
I was in a classroom before it came to Western, and it was really cool because it was a 4th grade classroom, and I didn't think that I wanted to teach 4th grade, but these kids like made my heart so warm because there was 3 I'm gonna forget students that were hearing aids. How would I not students with, I'm forgetting how to say it in people first language.
I think.
With hearing loss.
Yeah, but a hearing
Deaf.
impairment.
Oh, okay.
Is that how you would? I don't. I just
not
yeah.
deaf.
Well,
but-
I mean, you could say students that are deaf, but I don't want to mess it up.
No,
But
yeah.
there was 3 in one classroom, and they were.
Did they have a sign language
Yeah,
translator?
They had 2 paras actually, and the teacher, and then myself at some point. But it was like 3 hours at a time, and the kids were incredible because they are patient and they want to
Yeah.
help and they want to learn sign language and
It seems like when they understand the situation, like, kids
Yeah.
are
I think
awesome.
do.
But if they don't understand,
too.
then they
Yeah.
kind of don't really know what to do, how to
Right.
handle it, but.
And those kids being in the least restrictive environment, they did get pulled out, one of them, like, one point of the day, but it wasn't even for, like, because they had a hearing impairment, it was because of, like, reading. Like, it just, she specifically needed reading help, just like any other student.
would, yeah.
And so it was really cool to me because my experience being a kid in that same elementary school, because that's the school I went to, they were not included inside the classroom. They had the, everyone, no matter what kind of, I mean, I guess some types of disabilities were in certain classrooms. But it was really cool because I was surprised. They were patient, they were kind, they were helpful, and at times, like, they just were like any other student, and it's exactly how it should be. So I would hope that if it was maybe a student that,
Didn't speak
English, which, I mean, I think that depending on a specific scenario, I totally think that they would. Maybe that'd be really cool to see. I never had that. Everyone always spoke English, so really.
Out of luck.
I mean,
Alright, do we want to move on to the jigsaw
yes.
part? Hannah, you're A, yeah?
I am.
Perfect.
So mine wanted me to specifically talk about like the statistics that were in the article, and I guess I can kind of just go off of that first little paragraph of what I found to be significant research findings that I was personally surprised about. the fact that Latino was the largest minority group in the US of the population. For some reason, I wasn't sure, like, I knew that there were a lot of Latino coming over to America, but
Yeah, just seems
I
like
thought
they're
it
not
was
really
just
in the
like there was,
spotlight
I
very
felt,
much.
yeah, I felt like there was just, it was just like, people were just putting minorities in a group, not like, you know, each individual minority group, and so, I thought that was really interesting, and of that population, 35% are under the age of 18, so,
75%?
no,
35.
35.
Oh, I was like, oh wow.
That would be insane, yeah,
Yeah,
so.
say I didn't read that.
No. So yeah, they're all still in school, and so that makes sense why there's such a huge population in our school. And
Did it talk about migrant families at all in your section?
yes, it did. Sorry. What do you mean by that, migrant?
Like-
So,
Did it talk about statistics about students in migrant families that get pulled out of school at all?
yeah, like the
Okay.
back and forth
Yeah.
situation, yeah.
Yeah.
So 2/3 of the population are that, so,
Oh.
which is crazy, that's
That's a
like a
lot, yeah.
huge
Wait, is-
amount. So they're going back
They're
and
Back,
following-
back and forth, like.
Yeah,
following
following
the
the
crops,
seasons,
yeah.
yeah, and
Mm.
which I thought was so crazy, cause I had never realized, like that obviously has been going on forever, and I was reflecting back to when I was younger, there was a girl in my class named Jasmine, and she would leave for 3 months, and I was just like, what is she doing? She was like, you need to be in
She's
school, like,
so
how
cool,
is she, I was like, I remember just in my head being concerned for her at second grade, like, how is she missing 3 months of school and just
Yeah.
and then she'd come back and be super behind and just struggling the rest of the year, and she was like great, and still like that didn't like bring her down at all, which is good, but I mean I know every situation is different, so I just remember that specific memory, like now making the connection, like oh that's why she was gone, but like at that age I didn't
You had
understand
no
that.
idea, yeah.
Yeah, so I guess I was wondering that too for like students that recognize that, if they understand what's going on or not, or and so I don't know if like they should be informed then of that, or that's just a certain situation that those families live or not, because I feel like if they don't understand it, then they might not have the compassion to help them when they do come back, because they think, oh, they're just skipping school for 3 months, I wish I could do that, lucky them kind of thing, but not realize that that's just their family situation.
That's the way it has to be, yeah.
Mm-hmm. And so I just thought that was really interesting. I had thought that, so then I was asked to like talk about, you know, like what benefits of like such a huge migration has come to like the economy and educational opportunities, and I don't know if this is true, but like from what I've heard, more students in a school, the more funding they receive, right? Because for every student that gets checked off for attendance, that's why I just remember like my high school, like they like would do the motives for like person who hasn't missed a day of school in a year gets an award kind of thing. It's like they get money for that. So I saw that as an opportunity, like they do get more funding when they do have more students enrolled in, especially like Latino families, and need that more funding for that to help them with their transition. And then I thought like just generally like them coming into the communities, like they have to live, so they're gonna be contributing to like the local businesses and stuff and helping the economy there. I mean, it might not be much depending on their financial status, but I mean, it's still
It'll
something.
be something, yeah.
So I was just thinking about that. And then I just talked about like the struggles that Latino youth go through the transition, and stresses of life, and like the burden of financial stresses specifically, and how neighborhoods are usually segregated. And I thought that kind of had to do with just most of them coming not with a lot of money, and so they're going to end up in the low income areas where the property taxes aren't very much, or that they're renting or something like that. And one of the other struggles was because they are coming from somewhere in Mexico or South America area, or Central America, then some teachers that don't have like this acceptance to like different cultures and stuff, they're gonna like see those students as, you know, like the lifers of learning English, and how you can't have that mindset because you want to see them all get as far as they can, or how far you can make them get. And then, yeah, I just talked about myself being an advocate for that, and just trying to bridge that connection between the poorer communities and the schools, and like letting them know the opportunities they do have for their students to succeed, and to verbally support them, even though it may be difficult, but know that they are overcoming like really big barriers and that they can do it, and to keep pushing forward.
Yeah. So have high expectations,
Yes.
no matter what.
Yes.
Okay. B. So my question was, if you're finished.
Yeah.
Okay. What did Flyer versus, I think it's Flyer, versus Doe do for undocumented students? So of the however many undocumented families there are in the United States, there, I think it said anywhere from 8 to 10 million, and that's kind of like a,
Wow.
I don't
It's
know.
a big number.
huge.
And I think there's discrepancies in how many. And within that, you know, all the children that come with them, or if they were, you know, depending on how many children per family, so I don't know the number, but it's a large number. This ruling, Plyer versus Doe, stated that it would be unconstitutional to turn away children that aren't documented. And commonly they are thought of as less, it's just how it is, and a lot of times, you know, people don't believe that they should be here, and especially with all this election stuff, and there's a lot of people that get heated about it, and this ruling was really, really good for immigrant children that are undocumented, because they already are here living in fear that their parents are going to get deported, and that this kind of took away from the fear of that getting an education would mean their parents would be sent away. And it was kind of, you know, reading about it, and this doesn't really solve the issue of millions of children that want to go to college, because going to college, you know, most of the time you can't apply for scholarships if you're not documented, and it's just too expensive to go to college. You know, if you can't apply for financial aid, you don't have a social security number, and so I guess my kind of question was, because I'm not really informed, like, what have we done for, you know, children that aren't documented and they want to go to college and they don't have the means? Are there colleges that accept undocumented children? I don't know.
I'm not sure.
I feel like
so.
I feel like I've heard or watched a documentary of this girl. She wanted to go to like Stanford or something, and she applied and everything, but I think she didn't end up getting in because something about her being undocumented. So it was interesting to learn about this, because this does help children, you know, K through 12. But after that, they're just, and we've already decided as a society that it's almost like you are so privileged if you're able to get, you know, an education, a higher education, and you can't get, you know, the same paying job without it. And so I'm kind of like thinking like, yeah, we're helping them, you know, get maybe a high school degree, but after that, we're just like, you're on your own. So whether there's something with like amnesty that can help them, or I have no idea. So I was thinking a little bit into that, like what next? Like then they're just a bunch of people, like children.
They just
after
go
they
back to the farm work.
they
like
just go
their
back, and
parents,
it's just
or-
and then it's just a constant cycle of still not being involved in the community 100%. And it's all because of education.
Yeah, that definitely is a constant cycle, because I remember in my AMST class that we talked about, that was specifically about like children with migrant
Mhm.
farm workers. That was the whole topic was, the cycle is that the students they just get so behind in school that they end up, and they're also working in the crop fields anyways during those like 3 months usually. Once you're about 12 years old, you're working in the crop fields and doing like these ridiculously long hours for low pay, and they end up just falling into that path. And like nobody wants to follow that path, and especially the parents don't want their children to follow that path, but it's usually what happens. It's just like this, ongoing cycle. Going back to what you said about the children that are undocumented that get into college, I just remembered, fall quarter, one of my friends that I made like an art class, he like was celebrating one day that he like finally got his like citizenship.
Oh, wow.
And so now I'm thinking like, well, how did you get into college without that? And then now you're,
Yeah.
so now I'm confused.
I really do think that there are some colleges that do. Private colleges probably do not. I mean, that's just my assumption.
But this isn't private,
No, this isn't private.
but he was,
So he was here
like,
and he's been going to school because he was also the person that lived below me last year in my dorms. And so he's been here for like 2 years now, but he was like just in the fall celebrating.
Well,
that.
wait, was he
Hold on.
celebrating that day?
Was he,
Like he had
Like he
just,
had just become a citizen. Like,
wait,
so
hold
then my
on, was
question
he
is, like,
undocumented
how-
or was he just not a citizen? Isn't there a difference?
There is, because you can have, like, he could have had a green card or a work visa.
Yeah.
Yes.
oh, I see.
So,
but like, how
but
does that work for applying for colleges?
If you do
Is that
have
so think about
I think
like
it's like if
I
you have
guess
a
that's
green
the same
card.
as if you.
a foreign
Yeah,
exchange
abroad
student
here,
or something.
yeah.
So undocumented is like not any.
Undocumented
No, they
is
don't
nothing.
know.
Like you don't have a work visa, you don't have a green card, you don't have anything.
Yeah, and
So can you not get over the border unless you're documented? Is that where like
I
the,
mean, people do.
I
people
know,
do, but so
Technically.
Technically, no, you can't.
yeah, but
Right.
once they're here, like it's interesting because with this Playa versus Doe, families didn't have to tell them or give them records or basically.
So they're being protected.
Yeah, they're being protected, but that doesn't mean the school isn't like, well, this family's obviously undocumented or whatever, but they have some type of protection. The children do at least, and they're-
Oh, go ahead.
oh, I was just gonna say, I think maybe your friend wasn't undocumented. He was
Had like a visa.
a
and then-
visa
yeah.
or something, because if you're here as like a foreign exchange student, you're not a citizen.
Yeah.
But they could
Right.
apply for citizenship, but it takes a while.
I was just gonna point that out because in the article it says like people just say like, why don't you just get in line, you know? And
Yeah.
then
see, that's what I was wondering in my
Yeah.
head was like, how hard is it?
Uh-huh.
to
So
get-
it's not-
extremely
it's
hard.
difficult.
Is
Yeah.
it?
Mm-hmm. My Spanish teacher would always tell us she had a friend she went to college with, and she went down and I think she did some sort of college program in Mexico. Met this guy, fell in love with him, married him, and they won't let her come back with him still. And he's like totally successful, owns his own, like, I think he's a professor down there or something, and they
Wait, where is he?
in Mexico.
Oh, okay.
And he's applied for citizenship a bunch of different times, and they just won't accept him. So they're living down there.
Somebody,
Wow.
I mean, somewhere in the article it
It's very,
said
very
the
difficult.
typical
Wow.
like wait time, and I'm gonna mess it up, but I want to say it's like 6 to 8 years.
It's years, yeah. It takes
Really?
years.
It
to
said
be
my
accepted.
grandparents like 4 years to get, or my great grandparents 4
Right.
years to get citizenship,
Mhm.
which is like
Yeah.
not that much time compared
And
to
you're
Yeah.
expected to like apply and then stay where you
Well,
are.
and you guys are white,
Mhm.
Yeah,
so
which
that
I
makes
know.
a difference.
They're like they were Dutch, so
Yeah, which is like very difficult for people who like, especially for those, because there's people when they move over have children and then they're citizens, but then they can't.
Yeah, if kids
Yeah.
are born here, they're
Yeah.
citizens.
And
Yeah,
they're
right.
and they're
not.
protected here, and are you just gonna deport their parents and then you're gonna put them in
Exactly.
the system? So it's like, that's why it's ridiculous. Like, oh, you're gonna ship 11 million people out of the country? Sure, yeah, and you're gonna take from every single community
Mhm.
in
Well, then my
across the.
question is like, are there any colleges that do accommodate students who are who are totally undocumented? That's nice.
I don't know, because even community college, you needed a social security.
But yeah, well,
Yeah.
because it would be putting the college in complete governmental danger if they did that. So like,
It
I was
has
wondering,
to be
does it
private,
happen?
right? Then they would have to be private if it was like,
Mhm.
I
but
don't know.
are there private schools that are doing that? 'Cause it's not like private schools have.
But even like,
just
because
tons
isn't
of-
it like if someone is undocumented, aren't you like?
And if
Isn't
you,
there like a government responsibility of like an institution to bring that forward, or is it like? like, could a school know about it and like be hushed about it and be fine, or would that ultimately come back to bite them if some, you know, like
I don't
that's-
know. I was interested because the section on the plier versus dough wasn't very long, and it didn't go into extreme detail of how they're protected. Because to me, if you know that this student has no documentation in the sense that they don't have to provide anything, wouldn't you know their family's undocumented? So it's just
Yeah.
like, I don't know if it just provides protection.
How does that work?
But also,
Yeah.
and I think there's a certain amount of years you've lived and worked in a community, I wanna say it's like 10 years or something, then I don't know, like you are granted amnesty? I don't know.
Yes.
Really?
There's
Yeah.
something like that, I don't know the exact rules.
I don't
but
know the
there's
exact
something like
rules. And so like the children are probably never gonna get deported, and that, I hope not. But, so I'm thinking that maybe there might be something like, if a child is born here, they have citizenship.
They are.
Mhm.
They're
But if they're
citizens,
not
yes.
born here and they've lived here for more than some years, wouldn't you think they have some type of amnesty? I don't know. So that's a good question.
Yeah,
But,
that is a good question.
okay.
So I was C. I will move on. Mine was talking about academic disengagement versus engagement, and basically the way that you can measure that. So there's 3 different questions that they said are really important. The first one being, does the individual feel capable of doing the task? So like if you give something to a student and like they're doing it really well, they're doing great, or they're kind of pulled back from it, like do they understand? Are they capable of doing it? Is it something that's in their zone that they can do? And then the second one is the task motivating and why. So like if the student can do it, is there a reason for them to do it? Like do they see importance in what they're doing? Are they gonna do it because they just feel like they have to do it, or are they doing it because like they want to and they see it's important? Then the last question was, does the individual understand what he or she must do to complete the task successfully? So do they see the steps in the process? Or do they need to be walked through it? And then I thought those questions were really important, like as teachers, to keep in mind when you're watching your students. But then also with older students even too, you can use them as self-reflection type things, like how did you feel in A, B, and C when we were doing this, or when we went through this unit, or like how was that for you? I thought that was huge. And then they broke academic engagement up into 3 specific categories. And my format's all messed up on my computer, or on my phone. Anyways, so those are cognitive, behavioral, and relational. Kind of self-explanatory. Like I'm sure if you just think of those words, you can figure out the gist of it. But cognitive is their intellectual curiosity, and then whether or not the student is like pleased by mastering new material. So like if they hate it, then they're not gonna really want to do it. But if they're like intrigued and they want to, and they feel really proud of themselves and they've mastered something, then that's great and they're cognitively engaged. Which I think almost seems like the hardest one, because
For cognitive.
the cognitive engagement, because like you watch students and they're like, oh, math, I hate math, and they're
Yeah.
just done. Like,
Well, and the hard thing is like everybody's gonna be engaged in something different.
mhm.
So like you're not gonna be able to
Like
get
how can you
everyone,
try and tie
Yeah.
everyone in, like as much as possible?
you're gonna be able to get everyone engaged in like a science project and still get all of those kids to be engaged in a music project. You know,
Yeah.
the same kids in their writing project. Like,
And that's why you differentiate.
Yeah, how do you
Yeah.
play the different students?
yeah.
And then the second one is behavioral. So